Hello, Svitlana,
Hello, Arne.
and happy belated birthday to you. It has been your birthday very recently, and now you are 18. How does it feel to not be a child anymore?
Nothing too different, honestly.
Thought so.
Not much has changed.
I,
Yeah.
I, I thought so. Of course, that was a stupid little funky question of mine, but yeah, it's nice to have you still here. Although almost half a year has passed since we all started this, so it's a
Yeah.
nice, lovely project, and we even had more projects. You came to Hamburg, you did a lot of stuff here, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this until you are 20, 30, 40. Let it be 50 or more. So let's see how long we can keep
Oh
this up.
my. Yeah, I loved my visit to Hamburg. And well, now you can't write 17-year-old, in all of the descriptions of our videos
You're
anymore.
so right. Now it looks like just a random normal chess player person who's
Yeah,
like not
just
that special anymore.
no.
I'm so sorry. But we'll still keep you. You're fine. Anyway, Svetlana, you still have smart moves, although you are 18 now. And what kind of smart moves can you show us today?
So I thought today we could look at some of the most typical sacrifices. Even though, since it was my birthday, I kind of had the authority to make you
You're,
force you to do
you're
something like end
right.
games. But since I'm
Yes.
in a good mood, I'm gonna be nice today and make you do something that you like.
Ah, excellent. It suits you very well to be 18 now. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so some of the most typical sacrifices are usually, of course, in an attack on the enemy king. And one of them, I think the most famous one, is the Greek gift sacrifice. Have you heard of it?
No, probably I know what it is, but I never heard of it. Is it like where the sacrifice is on the H file, H7, or with the
Right,
bishop?
right,
Okay.
right. It's where you play. Yeah, it's where you play Bishop H7 and open up the opponent's king. And well, do you know the origin of why it's called the Greek sacrifice, the
That
Greek
I
gift?
don't know. This is interesting. Okay, let me know, please, if you know it. Maybe you
No,
say
but
like, no, I don't know it either. Maybe I hoped you would know it.
well, do you know about anything about Greek mythology or Greek?
I
Yeah,
do a
well,
bit.
well, the name comes from there. It's because during the Trojan War, the Greeks gave the Trojans a gift, which was a big wooden horse, and they accepted it as an offering of peace. And then turns out that there were a lot of Greek soldiers in that wooden horse, which just used that as a way to infiltrate the city. So that's since then it's kind of a saying, not just in chess, but in general, that a Greek gift is something that looks like a gift, but is really not.
Excellent.
So
It has a
same.
different wording in German, so I wasn't aware of the English version, but now I know. That's great. Okay.
So that's a similar thing with the usual bishop takes h7 sacrifice, because it looks like a free piece, but it really turns out to be a very dangerous idea, which can even get you checkmated. So we have
Love
this
it.
position that arose from the Nimzo, and it's visible that most of white's pieces are currently looking to attack on the king side.
Hmm.
So I will ask you to evaluate the opportunity of the Greek gift sacrifice. So of course you already know which move to calculate because you know what it is, but try to think if you would actually play it, if you think it's the best move, and how to continue there.
Excellent. Okay, I will do so. For you at home, of course, the same applies. And if you want to think a little bit for yourself and stop my babbling all along, just pause the video for a second, give it a thought, a couple of minutes, maybe even longer, however long you feel, because it needs some evaluation. I mean, unfortunately, I am the player who even in a long game would probably think for 3 seconds maximum and then just sack this h7 pawn with my bishop. But of course, I also got a little bit older. I'm a little bit calmer. Nowadays, I take...
Finally more mature.
Yes, it takes...
only took 30 years.
It only took 30 years, and now I'm thinking more than 5 to 6 seconds before I make this move. So anyway, the bishop takes on h7. The king takes back. Then the normal way how to move on is the knight goes to g5 with a check. And often enough, I think any other move than king going to g6 will immediately win for white. I actually, although I might be wrong, because black can sacrifice the knight back on f6. And that covers the very vulnerable spot on h7. But
you're very right actually about this. So usually king g6 is the only way to survive for the time being, and king g8 is considered is part of the trick, that now there's the setup of the queen and the knight, which is really hard to avoid because the king doesn't really have any more escape squares, and there's usually a checkmate that can follow on h7. But yeah, here black does have a defense here with knight f6, and this was the best thing that black could have done in this position. So they would have to give back the material that white sacrificed, which is of course good for white to keep their attack going and also have regained the material, and maybe even white could keep the attack like this, and the knight can't go anywhere anyway. I think this is best, and just have some really strong attacking chances and keep the attack going. But what happened in the game was king g6, which is technically a mistake, but it is a bit harder to see this and to really evaluate this one. So how would you continue here for white? So this is the real point of the exercise. This is the hard part.
Okay, so well, for the most common or natural move would always be queen to g4. Not only does it protect the knight, but of course it gives a discovered check and has some, nasty plans going on. The question is, how effective is it right now? Because still, one of the black knights can go to f6, I believe, and sacrifice itself and then attack the queen. The queen cannot even go back to g3. Because the other queen now has the open diagonal. So maybe queen g4 is not the best move. Then there could be the idea of the other knight coming into e4 and preparing a bit, because like this, black cannot protect that well on f6 because now it's attacked twice. So my idea would be knight d2 to e4.
Okay, but what is the threat of knight?
No, it's wrong.
E4?
No threat yet, but it protects the square f6. It also protects the other knight, of course, and then I would move in the queen one move later. I don't think actually.
No, it makes sense. I think the better execution of your idea is to play knight to f3, because then at least we have some open. Some open diagonals here that we could maybe give a check on later. So this is one of the moves. This is one of the moves. I think it's not the simplest one, but it should lead to a win probably.
Okay.
There's a simpler way, or more logical, I should say.
Way. Okay. Oh, okay. So now, now that I think of it, so what happens if I give a check on c2? Then the king takes the knight, but then my other knight might jump in, give a check, but then my queen is not capable of moving over quick
Queen
enough.
C2 is funny that you mention it. It's one of the it leads to one of the crazy lines. So
Oh,
black will not capture just yet because that's a lot more dangerous. And
is it? Okay.
so f5. So f5 instead, and then e
Wow.
takes. Now we capture. So now it's different because there's some defensive opportunities here with the
Yeah.
knight, the queen. So this is better. And here you won't believe it, but the best move for black is king h6. So
Oh my gosh.
I think that's something that no one can foresee. Maybe you can find it in already this position, but it's something so difficult to foresee, and to realize that this is the only saving move is
That
almost
that
impossible.
looks like an engine move.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. And even here, I think white is very, very well off. So definitely not something to go for. So this is why I think queen c2 is indeed a very interesting option.
Mm-hmm.
What you haven't mentioned yet is f4. I thought this was the simplest way to win, honestly, in my opinion. Well, once again, you have your queen c2 threats. You have maybe some f5 threats, queen g4. It's you keep all the same ideas, except you also bring your rook into
Yes,
the
that is
attack.
something I didn't calculate, and that is a very good point. Yeah, you get to
So in
get
case
as
of
many.
f5 now,
Yeah.
we have rook f3, and the rook can either go to g3 or to h3. And the thing is, the king cannot really escape. It has all of his escape squares are blocked by the pieces which are not moving away anytime soon. So everything is blocked. So the king is staying there. So we have a bit more time to just bring the rook in
Oh, you're
and enjoy the
right.
position. So this was the correct way to play. In the game, white
Huh.
didn't see any of these three moves. I think f4, queen c2, and knight d to f3 all worked quite well. So if you found any of those, you would have been
Thumbs up.
right. Yeah. But queen g4, as you correctly mentioned, is not one of the good options precisely because of that knight 7 to f6. And this would be the correct defense. Not easy to find for black either, but the attack slows down a bit, and there's no good discovered checks for now. So so this is hard to defend for both sides. And black even made a mistake here and played f5, after which you would think it's the attack gets simpler, but it doesn't, because now f4 and suddenly black went into counterattack, which is something that wasn't really expected. But yeah, pieces are just hanging everywhere. That's how this game continued. And I don't really want to show the rest of the game because it wasn't that eventful, but basically black played f5, which was an inaccuracy. So now white has a winning opportunity to play knight d to f3. So you keep all the threats and you keep the knight protected, but he picked a different square, knight d to e4, and after that the position suddenly becomes equal. Although I think unclear would be, the way to describe it, because definitely you look at it and you wouldn't think of it as equal. So whenever a complicated position is equal by the engine, that's when you say it's unclear. So
Okay. Good point.
that's how I would refer to it. But yeah, the rest of the game, black ended up winning the game, even with a king like that. You wouldn't expect it. But with this example, I just wanted to, well, first of all, show the typical Greek gift sacrifice idea. It's usually a very good idea. It works in a lot of cases, but it's not always as simple as it looks. So as you could see with this example, even a grandmaster can start it off the right way because he knows the idea, but then something goes wrong in calculation and it doesn't, it's not as simple anymore. So this particular one, black ended up winning it, but it was a winning idea here right at the beginning. White had a lot of ways to win, which you found.
Ta-da! Next
so
one.
Let's look at the next typical sacrifice. And this one is, well, if I say the name of it, it will become obvious. Do you want to hear the name of it, or do you want to um, try to solve the
I
example
will try
first?
to solve the example first, because if the name is like the I take the knight, you take back with the bishop, and I will checkmate you with my other knight trap, then yes, it might be too obvious.
It will be a little too obvious if I say it, but let's just say it's a bit similar to the Greek gift sacrifice. So this one does have similarities, and this was the game that well, it was the first of the kind of that kind of sacrifice, and this was played by Emmanuel Lasker. So
Oh,
once you find the right move and the right idea, you'll understand which type of sacrifice I'm talking about, but similar in a way to the Greek gift.
okay. Wait a second, where's Svitlana? What's going on here? Sorry for the short interruption, but yesterday Svitlana and I made the show, and we had a very interesting analysis of a famous game of Emmanuel Lasker where he was sacrificing a piece. That's what the theme is about, after all. But I was skeptical. I thought like something is a bit odd in this position, and Svetlana's analysis wasn't that correct because she just trusted the classic. I mean, it's from 1889, and you might think like, okay, everything what Emmanuel Lasker worked out was perfectly well planned. But after all, Black just made a mistake, and that led to this beautiful sacrifice that Lasker could fulfill, which gave it a famous name. Just so you know, the analysis is a little bit incorrect, and maybe you personally can figure out what the right move was after all, because it was not the move that was suggested, the big move which was suggested. It was a move which you could have played a bit earlier. And I will give the solution after the analysis. So enjoy. It's very informative and very good after all.
So this is the beginning position, and we don't have the sacrifice just yet. But first, just try to gather your ideas, what types of sacrifice you will be looking for, and what you would play in this position.
So the first thing which comes to my mind is taking on f6. So the threat on h7 is stronger when I get my queen to h5. But I cannot see it work out
Sorry.
yet.
Queen h5.
Yeah, because yeah, exactly. There's a couple of ways how to easily defend it, I think. And yeah, G6 might be one of the things. I think there's not much left, yeah. So, but yeah, so you made this move by accident with the knight to h5 after that. And I think this can be the right track. But because first of all, you attack the other bishop, of course. If the bishop takes on a1, then you take back with your queen. I think this is good for white. Also, you get your rook to f3. I see that knight to h5 is very powerful. I like it.
As an idea, yes. So would you go for it now?
No, I will take f6 and then knight h5 after the bishop takes back. If the bishop takes back.
Well, knight h5 now.
It's not working.
I'm not too sure about this move. I'm trying to think if I can even just take the rook.
Yeah, it seems to go with f6 just easily.
Maybe f6.
Damn
and
it.
The bishop h7 idea.
Rook f3
you don't have enough
now.
pieces.
Yeah, but it's not working. Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
Bishop f6 will not be it.
That's interesting. Okay. Now if the Oh, okay. And what happens if you play the knight immediately to h5?
So that is one of the key ideas of this position. But the trick was that knight h5 does not work immediately, because d4 will
And
now
mate threat, yeah.
And queen g2 is an unpleasant threat, and this slows down the attack by a lot because you have to spend a move to play rook f2 to defend it, and then black can start having moves that gain him a tempo, like taking the pawn, and then it's not as powerful anymore when the rook has to be stuck there on f2 defending, and after f5 this stops white's attack for now. So this is why knight h5 does not work immediately, but it is a key idea. So you may have thought that black would react with knight h5, after which you would have been right to assume that this is good. This is winning. We have our rook joining in, and this would be good. So the only reason why it doesn't work is that d4.
Evil. Okay, right. So yeah, it's very nice that I don't immediately get my attacking skills to work out. Okay.
Maybe this is not the most attacking move.
Yeah, maybe
not. Like a move that prepares it.
So okay, so there is the threat of d4. Now, how can I do something against that? I am also thinking of rook to f3, but maybe this is just, it cannot be right because it takes so much time. It's so slow.
It takes away your ability of recapturing on h5 with the queen.
Yeah, that's true. Have you found it out at home? Because
it's not an easy move to find in the first place, but once you know the main idea, so you know that knight h5 is what we're aiming for, and that d4 is what prevents it, and it's not an immediate sacrifice, and it's a preparatory move, I think you can eventually get to the solution.
Okay, let me think for another half hour. No, okay, so if it, so there's, okay, f3, rook to f3 is not working. Now there's two more options, but it cannot be queen to f3, but queen to e2, of course, might be a good idea, because that is not an immediate mate threat after all. And d4 doesn't fulfill any purpose like that. But it's not working because once the knight is on h5. Oh, damn it. Why am I so bad at chess? That doesn't help either. Oh, hello. That was a bit of birthday cake. That was cute. Okay.
This is my grandma. Her name is also Svitlana.
That's so nice. That is nice. And she's also visited you. That's great. Okay. Svitlana, you won't believe it, but I see a lot of options, but it would just be more of a guessing game from my part, unfortunately. I do not see the concrete plan. I'm a bit...
You do see the move. You have already named it. Queen e2.
It is queen
is
e2.
The move. And I think you missed the second idea.
I saw that too, but I thought like, well...
That's a queen trap. Is that not enough for you to win a game?
But can't I not just go with the queen to c8?
Sure, yes, you can. But then...
After, I mean, yeah. But don't I need my bishop to stay there on d3?
No, you do, but the thing is, what is black going to play? One of the very few ideas that black has is either to play rook c8 or rook d8. And all of these, especially rook c8, now loses its purpose because the queen would be trapped. And the other thing is once the queen is on c8, well, it loses a lot of its power. So yeah, the queen trap only works, of course, if there's rook a to c8,
Certainly,
which
yeah.
is one of the like key moves that black wants to play right now. And so queen e2, it has this double purpose of placing the bishop on b5 and defending on g2. So this is a bit difficult to see. And I think the difficult part is to realize that bishop b5 is also a big threat. And it is one, because now we can continue with our knight h5 idea, and it only becomes stronger. Even f5 could be an idea, and well, the queen on c8 is just not as helpful anymore, and there's never d4, there's never any threats, and you can just continue your attack and not have any counterplay from the opponent.
Well, there you have it. It was actually the mistake by black played now that led to this beautiful sacrifice, which I mentioned earlier. Queen e2 wasn't that amazing. Actually, the knight going to h5 was definitely better in this position. Just for you to know, we want to clear things up. We take care of everything. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So now black played a6. So he believed into this bishop b5 idea. And from here on, how would you continue?
Well, now I would keep up with the plan, I guess, which I tried to make earlier. Exactly.
Right. And now suddenly, by only making this one inclusion of the queen onto e2, this works fully, and white is now winning. So sometimes it only takes one move like that, one preparatory move to keep your threat. Do you remember? I think we've talked about this before. The threat is more dangerous than its execution.
Absolutely, yes. Now, but Svitlana, we have to go through this. I need to know the truth. What happens after rook f to d8 now?
Rook f to d8?
Yes, because I don't... Now, I will continue as black, because I cannot see it at the moment. So...
Well, can we not play this?
So I take...
I'm trying to think. Do you think it's worth it to include bishop b5? I think we can try this.
I would take with my knight, and then the queen takes, I guess.
Oh. Yeah, either queen takes. I'm wondering if this works. I don't think it does just yet.
No,
I don't think it does. So, do you see how it's suggesting bishop b5 is the better move than this? But I think we'll just go with this, because this is more
okay. So now I play g6. And now, after queen to h6, I would play bishop to f8.
Okay. Well, I think it's a wonderful position to be playing as white. You don't?
Yeah. And now d4, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows?
Rook f3.
Rook f3 is... Yeah, okay.
And yeah, not right away. So one of the other ideas is queen f6. So... we can't do that right away because of the mate of what you just did here. But rook f3, and do you see one of the threats? If you ever move this bishop anywhere, we even have this, but not
bishop g7 should also work again, right?
Bishop g7 should be fine.
Yeah.
Yes. So can we rook h3? Unfortunately, we can't play that right away.
So. I honestly, I'm not convinced because of this rook d8. It's like, it's, but there must be something better. So I believe maybe what you mentioned earlier, that the bishop is going to b5 now, and the queen has to retreat, of course, and but if the bishop moves back, then the queen just moves back, right?
Yeah. F5. Well, to be honest, this is the type of position that I would love to play as white, and to me, it just looks so good.
I agree. I completely agree. That is, okay.
I don't see the concrete, like exact checkmate right now.
Yes.
But I feel like this is the type of position that white would win in like 9 out of 10 cases. It's
That
just that good.
that is a good point you're making, and yeah, so positionally, you can just almost any move you make is going to be a good move, and this is also the reason why
F5.
Black played a6 earlier. But yeah, I was calculating after queen going to e2, I was calculating that the rook goes to d8 and that I didn't see a threat of the bishop going to b5. But maybe there's some deeper meaning. Maybe there is a little trap or something, which I just didn't see yet.
Well, I just, yeah, even after I move like F5, the position should be amazing. I think taking would just lose on the spot to
Yeah.
some things like this. And if not, well, I'm just having a hard time trying to find what Black is going to do at all in this position.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, yeah, Black has a hard time. That is absolutely clear, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Now
but
we can, I don't know, we can have some rook f6 at some point, not right away because there's mate, but I just love the position for white, and to me it was just clearly better. But yeah, I do understand that if you are looking for checkmates and looking for the kill right away,
Yeah.
that it can be hard to realize that it's not here just yet. But yeah, you are right. So this bishop b5 threat was maybe the
After-
opponent considered it more dangerous than it really was.
I mean, there must be something. Otherwise, a6 wouldn't have been moved. But probably it's really just what you mentioned before. It's just like, I mean, after bishop b5, the queen has to retreat to c8, and white has just a clearly better position. I mean, I assume. But I couldn't see the direct mate or sacrifice or something like that. That's why I thought.
Well, now you will after a6
Okay.
because knight h5, as you said, and now after knight takes h5, we of course play bishop h7. So this is why I said this is quite similar to the Greek gift sacrifice. And after king h7, we're going to take king
And
g8.
now
and
the rook jumps in, correct?
no,
Oh.
no, it doesn't. Not yet.
So, that's interesting. Not yet. Oh, so do I take directly with the bishop on g7?
Yeah, bishop g7, and this is called the double bishop sacrifice.
Oh,
That is how that is the name of this sacrifice, and it was the first famous game in which it was employed is this one. It was
Wow.
Lasker against Bauer.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
It is a double bishop sacrifice, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You sacrifice one bishop, and then you sacrifice the other bishop. There's also a game of Judith Polgar against Anatoly Karpov, where she won in the same way. But it was a different. It was a bit different, but it's also one of my favorite games of hers.
Nice.
So that is also, so this example has this type of sacrifice appears a lot, and even a player like Karpov can sometimes fall for it. So it's one of the also important sacrifices to know. But it's not that simple. After king g7, how do you get it to a checkmate?
I believe the rook has to go to f3. I cannot see anything else. So yeah, that has to be.
And you would be wrong to say that.
Oh no!
Yes, there is an escape. There is an escape. Rook h8, rook g3 is what you probably thought.
Yeah.
But now bishop g5.
Oh,
and
this is so nasty.
yeah, so the problem is you sacrificed two pieces already. So black can give away one of them and
That's
be
so
okay
crazy.
for the
Yeah.
time being. And black can have
Wow.
a chance to escape.
Ah, this is
not-
amazing. Yeah, okay, that is imagine I would be white. I have thought about this for 20 minutes. I convert, and then black escapes, I would be destroyed probably.
Yeah.
Because I would also just play the moves quickly, and then I would get the ticket for that. Okay, so there has to be a different way. So then the queen has to check on g4 before.
Right. So this is the only winning move, and it makes a lot of sense because you're not changing the position in any way. So you're not letting the king go anywhere. So he cannot
That's
really make
mate,
any
yeah.
escape plans like that. So he has to go to h7, which is a small improvement, but it's a good improvement for us because now we for sure know that the king is cut off and he can't ever escape from there. And that's an important point because when you make a check like that, when you have a check like that, like queen g4, it doesn't it doesn't change the position. You can still go back to the exact same position after the check if you ever wish to do it. So you will have a chance to do that later, but it's a good way to just make a slight improvement in your position, which can end up being important. And now after rook f3, there is no defense against the mate other than giving away your queen, which is what happened. They played e5 and gave away the queen, but even this doesn't give black enough material.
Knight d7, yeah, queen d7.
Queen d7, right. And this is not enough material because white also ends up winning one of the bishops, and this is a rook and bishop against a queen, not the good kind. So we had one lesson on imbalances with you, but I made one of the other projects also on imbalances. So rook and bishop against the queen can sometimes be a good combination, but not in this case. There's just too many pawns.
Here it's not enough, I believe so either. Yeah. And there's even more threats coming up. I mean, I'm getting another pawn, and even after taking on, if I could take on b6, then... Oh, no. This is falling apart. Nice! The double bishop. I really didn't know about this. This is good to keep in mind. Do we have another one?
We do.
Yes.
So there is another one, and this one is a bit more of an opening example. So for anyone who plays the Caro-Kann might already know it or might find this useful for either side. So I used to play the Caro-Kann. That was one of my first openings as black, and this is one of the lines which I was really scared of, and I'm not sure exactly how many times it happened to me, maybe just once or twice, but I was always scared of this line because I didn't really know the proper theory in it. And so this is one of those things which I want to show. Oh, here, there's also one more trick, which I as a bullet player, you for sure know about.
We were talking about it the last week after the show a bit, exactly. Beautiful.
So this works well in bullet. Because there's now this trick that if black plays the regular knight f6, there's knight d6, but that's not really about the sacrifices that we're talking about. So knight g5, this is still a theoretical move, and you can already tell why this move is so dangerous, because it's getting really, really close to the opponent's king. So the theory goes like this with h6. h6 is still not a mistake, but white does have some sacrifice options. Which ones do you think they are? Which one is better? If you see two, you might only see one, but there's two sacrifice options. And would you go for them?
Yeah, so I had this position recently a couple of more times, and actually I played bishop to c4 before.
Okay.
And I just sacrificed it on f7 because I couldn't fathom that this is not working for white, but it isn't working for white like I'm just planning to do, unfortunately. Now, h6, as far as I understand, is a mistake after all, because, the knight takes on f7. But, exactly. I think the knight just takes...
I wouldn't say h6 is a mistake, actually.
It isn't? Oh, no. I thought it was a mistake.
It's a theoretical move. This is technically theory, and most strong players in reality retreat on to h3
Yeah.
because they
I hate
already,
this.
once you have analyzed it with the engine, you would know that the sacrifice is not bringing white anything special. But you said knight f6. Do you know of any other sacrifice in this type of position?
F7, but then there might
Seven, sorry. Yes.
also be knight on e6.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So these are the two sacrifices that are worth taking a look at, and not just in the Caro-Kann, but in a lot of pawn structures.
And basically in every pawn structure where one of the knights, or at least one of the knights is on the square or on the second last row or on the second first row and blocking the king, then this is so many traps are coming up with that.
Do you know about the fried liver attack?
Yeah. That's one other example.
One. Hold on, let me show it. It's just to quickly show. It's one of the famous examples here, where you go like this, and then if black recaptures, then you can have this nice knight f7 trick. I think this is a really good opening to play for white, for the attacking side. Technically, I believe it is equal if black knows the perfect defense.
Yeah.
But of course, no one does. I'm showing the perfect defense right now. But of course, no one would know it this deeply. And still, even with the perfect defensive moves, it is hard to defend. So I do recommend this to play this for white. The problem is just that this doesn't happen too often. You don't get it.
That's true.
You don't get black playing this too often. But it's a good one to use if this ever happens.
And it's the favorite opening of one of our cats. Just a joke.
Oh, nice. Nice one. Yeah. So here, though, knight f7 is a bit more complicated. It's possible, but I do not think it's as effective as in that fried liver line that I was just shown, because now the king is not as exposed, and there is a defense here with knight d5, and so far white pieces haven't really made any big threats, and it becomes really difficult for white to continue the attack. You do have some compensation, of course, because the king's situation here is still not fully safe, but it is not enough for equality. So this is why not knight f7, but rather knight e6, I think, is a more interesting sacrifice. So f takes, e6 is a must. You just have to play that.
But because just to follow up, knight to queen to a5. I don't know. I'm confusing knights and queens today with each other. I think it's not working because bishop goes to d2, and now the threat is there's no square exact. This is the only one, and I think this follows up.
At the very least, you can take.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing. An amazing position, because you either lose castling rights or you lose a lot of time in the knight taking back. So that's it's not even you're just accepting that you're scared and you're not going to take this and you're not going to take it. So it's even a psychological advantage if the opponent doesn't take it. But of course, the real test is if black takes. And here, of course, we follow up with bishop d3. And I'm just curious whether you here, if you were playing as black, whether you would find the right defense, because there is one. I
just see king f7.
And that's I think what most people would play, but it's not the best defense. So the reason why people don't go for the sacrifice anymore as white. Well, I mean, top players, of course, you can still go for it, and there's still a lot of games in which white did go for it. So the only reason is this queen a5 first. So first we have to find this intermediate move, queen a5, which is quite difficult, and then the second move to find is g5. So do you see the idea of queen a5 was so that after bishop g6, the king has an escape square on d8, which is really deep, but it's not that complicated once you already know the solution. And the idea of g5 is so that we open up the bishop here. So usually the main problem with these type of position, right? Whenever we make a sacrifice like that, is that this bishop never comes out. Is that the bishop goes to g6 and then it's just always going to stay on on f8. So the way to get out of it is to play g5, and now g7 square is freed up for the development of the dark squared bishop, and
crazy.
This is the best refutation of that sacrifice, which I think is quite difficult to find as the side who is defending, because even here, like, what are you doing after knight e5 and things like that? So this is why I think this sacrifice can still exist, especially when you are playing against someone who's maybe not that big on theory, or is only starting to play the Caro-Kann. I think it would be difficult for them to find it. So king f7 is, of course, the very logical move. And after castles, white has enough compensation, and the position is around equal, which is generally normal for any opening sacrifice.
Wow.
Because you have compensation, you have an attack, but the opponent does have that extra material. So now g6. Of course, black wants to develop the bishop, and after knight e5, we have a chance to gain back our knight, because if it ever moves away, if the knight ever goes anywhere, now we have queen g4 attacking both of those weaknesses. Those are usually the main weaknesses in any pawn structure like that. And we can gain back the knight and have the king still be, I think queen f4 is a nice double attack. And so you gain back the knight and have your attack going on with the king in danger. So this particular game went with bishop g7, and white won back the piece. He's still missing a pawn, but these pawns are they look like a nice shield for the king, but of course g6 and e6 can be a weakness for later. And this, I would even also say, that is an approximate equality, but it's once again about which position is more comfortable to play, and I think it is more white's position than it is black's, especially in a faster time control. Definitely would pick white. And I'll get you to the final tactic of this position. So not many tactics just yet, but the king is still stuck a bit here in the center because he's defending that e7 pawn, that e6 pawn, and I think here we do have a tactic already, which can be really powerful. Do you see it?
Not yet. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the powerful tactic here? Okay, so that doesn't work. Check. Boom, boom. And the king takes. Then there is another check. Then the king goes there. Oh boy. Oh, discovered? So far I calculated bishop takes e6, rook takes e6, rook takes e6, king takes e6, queen b3 check, and I think with the discovered check of my bishop, I can get the rook on d8. Yeah, it might not work.
Yeah, so bishop e6 and rook e6 are the same exact thing. And the game continued with g5, so he didn't even take the rook.
Oh, it worked.
But yes, it of course works. Except why queen onto b3 if you can just take on g6?
Didn't see that. Yeah, that's much better, of course.
So that's
a killer move, of course.
Definitely winning. So yeah, that was the final tactic. It was this either rook or bishop e6. Both of them are working. But so I wanted to show a different type of sacrifice. For example, those knight f7 or knight e6 ideas. So they're not going to work in every position, and they're not going to be winning in every position, but sometimes it can give a nice attack and just to have some extra ideas in your openings. So
thank you.
Those are the typical sacrifices that I had. There's of course many more, and we can have many editions of this lesson, but these are, I think, some of the most common ones.
Nice, absolutely. Yeah, you can unshare the screen. That was very informative, especially, why am I on this side? I don't want, everything is screwed up here for me. It doesn't matter. I'm on the wrong side, but I sometimes Zoom is a bit annoying. What I learned today is that the sacrifices which I would blindly do every now and then do not always work the way I think they do work, and that I have to take a lot of caution and care in order to fulfill those sacrifices. And you can do so by learning a couple of sacrifices or techniques like the double bishop, or understand even in the opening when the sacrifice is appropriate and when not.
Yeah, that's true. But so you mostly go for sacrifices intuitively, which can be a good thing. But usually, at least for me, I like to have my sacrifice calculated before I go for it. Of course, there's not always time, and you mostly like to play faster games, so it makes sense that you go for it more out of instinct. But whenever you can't fully calculate a sacrifice, there are maybe a few ways that you can decide whether the sacrifice is worth going for or not. In your case, you would just always go for them no matter what. I would say maybe if you have if you see, so you don't have, let's say you don't have time to calculate the entire thing, or you just can't get to the end of the line because there's too many things. One of the things that you can use is to have, if you see that you have a safety net of making a perpetual. So if you see that there is a perpetual there for sure, guaranteed, then you can go for it, make a few more moves, like 3 moves have passed, and now you can have a clearer vision of the board and calculate it better. And if it turns out that your sacrifice didn't work and you don't see anything, then you can have your perpetual and you just make a draw, and at least you're not down a ton of material. So that's kind of a safety net that I would use sometimes. And the other option is if you have, let's say, also another type of advantage, like a static advantage. Let's say you have a much better pawn structure and the opponent just has awful pawns. I probably wouldn't go for the sacrifice, even if it's there, and I would just rather go for the calm way of winning the game. But that's not something that everyone would go for, and if the sacrifice works, it works. There is no doubt about it. But I'm saying in those ambiguous cases where you either can't calculate the whole thing or it's an unclear position after, and that's how it can help you decide when to go for it and when not to go for it.
I have to take a slice of this knowledge a little bit deeper into my mindset. Yeah, I always go for those weird beauty prizes, which are often backfiring. It happened a couple of times in my life. I still keep on doing them. Yeah.
But at least, at some point you will get the beauty prize of best game of the tournament.
We will see about
you might lose like 5 games before it, but that one game where it does work will be the one.
That is something I will write down and stick the note to my fridge, and every time I see it, then it will at one point fulfill. Dear people, thank you for watching, everybody. This was another lovely episode of Svitlana's Smart Moves. We see each other next week. Bye-bye.